Alright, you know what? I'm going to tell this joke. I'm going to tell this most fucked up joke I know. Alright, and I wrote it entirely. It's not even really a joke as much of it as a story. It's just more of a story that will allow you to learn a little bit about life, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead and mute Diablo sound here, so we're not gonna have sound on Diablo for a little while, because this is a pretty serious story, okay? But I'm gonna keep playing. This is a pretty sad story, and I can't believe I'm doing it, but we're gonna talk about it. It's gonna bring down the mood, and I'm really sorry. But hopefully you can learn something about this, learn something about life, you know. My mom passed in 2009, and she had diabetes that she wasn't treating, and it led to kidney failure, and that kidney failure led to organ failure, and she died. She died, you know, in ICU, and I was there. I was there to help. I was there to say goodbye, you know, and you know, my mom was abusive to me, and one of the reasons I'm so heavy is because she fed me wrong when I was a kid on purpose, you know, and that's always been hard to deal with. And she kind of really screwed up in a lot of ways, you know, and she always kind of felt bad about it later in life, you know. And the last thing I ever said to her, I had a conversation with her, and she said, I wrecked your life. And I said, no, Mom, you didn't. I'm proud of who I am. Aren't you proud of me? And she says, yeah. And that's the last thing we ever said to each other, but I always carry that with me, you know. It's wonderful that I was able to give her peace, you know. And I'm still sometimes mad at her for the things that she did, but there's no point in being mad. There's no point holding on to that anger, you know. And a few days later, she was in ICU, and we were staying at a nearby hotel, me and my best friend, Chad. And, you know, I have a brother, I have a sister. Neither of them were there for us. But my best friend Chad was. He traveled all the way from Arkansas to Virginia to help me do that, help me take care of that. And he's like a brother to me. We've known each other for 20 years. And in those 20 years, he saved my life. I trust him with my life. And it's nice to know that he trusts me the same way, too. And they called us at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they said, Mr. Williams, your mother is passing. If you're going to want to be here, you're going to want to come now. And Mom was in a medically induced coma, and, you know, I couldn't say anything more to her. 3 days ago, the last time I ever got to say anything to her was that conversation I had. And when I got there, they said, we don't recommend you go into the room. We have it sealed off for a reason. We have it sealed off for a reason. She has 3 different antibiotic resistant strains of bacteria in her body. And we can't let you go in there. And I'm saying, I want to go in. I want to go in. That's my mom. I want to be there when she passes. And she says, well, in order to do that, you've got to suit up. You're going to have to wear this mask. You're going to have to wear gloves. You're going to have to wear this apron. You're going to have to wear all this. And you're going to have to sign a waiver that says that if you get sick, we're not held liable. I'm fine, whatever. I'll sign it. Just give it to me. I want to go in and I want to say goodbye. And I signed it. I started suiting up. And as I entered the room, you never believe what I saw. It was my best friend, Chad. He decides to come to the room with me. And he signs the waiver. And he puts on the suit and he puts on the armor and he comes in. And I'll never forget that. It wasn't my brother. It wasn't my sister. It wasn't a cousin and uncle. It was my friend. He has no liability to me. We're not blood. And I knew that day that I could trust him with anything. And we went into the room and I held my mom's hand and we sat there for about 40 minutes and they explained to me that they were going to give her some medicine, some morphine, to make sure she wasn't in any pain and to help her pass. And I agreed to let them do that. And I watched her die, you know? And Chad was there with me, and we watched passed, and in the last 10 minutes, my sister finally came in. She lived in the same city, you know, and the nurses kept trying to call her, eventually got a hold of her, and you know, she came, and she was there for the last 10 minutes. And something I always thought was really weird, you know, me and Chad, we're gamers, and my sister, she's never been a gamer, but me and my friend Chad, we were watching the heart monitor and the blood pressure monitor. We were watching the HUD, you know, because we're gamers. We were watching her life total drop. My sister, you know, she was more there. She was watching my mother as she passed, you know, and you know, eventually your heart rate dropped to 40 beats a minute, 30, and 20, and 10. And then eventually it was so faint that the machine couldn't pick it up. But I held her hand the whole time, and her hand turned cold, and there was no magic to it. You know, there was no angels. There was no chorus of angels. There was no teleportation. She was there one moment, and then she wasn't there the next, and that was it. And my sister left the room crying, and Chad stood at the foot of the bed, and I couldn't find the strength to leave. I couldn't find the strength to move, and I sat there with her for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And Chad said to me that day, not my sister, not my brother, but he said something that motivated me, something that will always stick with me, and it meant the difference, all the difference in the world. And he said, Steve, if you want to fuck her, you'll want to do it while she's still warm. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to hell forever. And that is the darkest joke I have ever written. It is the most offensive, shitty thing. So, all of that story is true. Every word of that story is true, right up to what Chad said to me. And what Chad said to me was a very private and wonderful thing. And he was a good friend to me that day. He's been a good friend to me every day before and every day since.